So we are understanding how the teacher, this master is teaching, live in mindfulness all the time by understanding that we are the real self. We are comfortably unhappy and we are uncomfortably happy. That is, in one phrase, we can explain our personal, our professional, our social life. Think of it. I'm just going to summarize the first 17 verses today, and then this master goes for another metaphor, which I believe, as far as I have studied many texts, no one has given that metaphor. So that we are going to take up, and that explains why, when I'm a real self, that pervades everywhere. So I started, again, I'm saying we are comfortably unhappy. We are comfortable, but we are unhappy. And we are uncomfortable, we are happy. So I coined this phrase, I have a lot of stress in the job, but still you are going into the job. I have a lot of challenges at home. Now everything is comfortable, but unhappy. Do you see that? So there the master says, I'm conscious, hence I am consciousness. Can I recognize that? Can I realize that in our day-to-day life? So to understand that, let us take in a very simple way that all the living species have body, physical frame, all living species, from mosquito, elephant, tiger, and all the living creatures. The existence has a little different configuration of the human frame, mosquito body, elephant body. But body is the same. Do you see? The body is the same. Life force is the same. The breath is the same, but with a different configuration. You go to the Best Buy and ask them the computer, no, I want a computer. They say, what you are going to do? Just browsing internet and email. So they will show you a very smallest configuration. That will cost hardly $200 to $300. But as you go on with the complexity, no, I have to work, I have to do coding, I have to do the programming, and then that computer cost even $3,000. The same desktop, day before yesterday, I was on the Best Buy, so I was talking to this guy who had a $20,000 PC. Because it's a commercial grade and they work with artificial intelligence. Why I'm giving that example? So you see the body is the same. The outer shape, external shape, has a common factor. Now from outside, this computer looks the same. So two things definitely that is common, and we can say the same in all the living species. But you see that how the complexity, existence has created the complexity. Take an example of a turtle. Turtle breathes about 3 to 5 breaths per minute and lives for 150 years. Dog breathes about 45 to 50 breaths per minute, lives for hardly, on an average lifespan is 15 to 20 years. We don't know about the breath rate of an ant or a mosquito. So what is very important, you just look at with a surprise that body is the same carbohydrate, same protein, same amino acid, same blood, same thing with the breath, but configuration, the moment there is a different configuration, the subtlety, the subtle level of understanding comes. What about the mind of all the living species and the mind that is sitting in the human frame? Think in that purely in an objective way, purely objective. Mind is an instrument, body is an instrument, breath is an instrument. So, mind is very subtle and complex in human frame as compared to the mind in other living species. They are controlled, they are operated mechanically by the existence. It is also controlled mechanically in the human frame, but we have a choice. So we have a chance. We have a choice, we have a chance. And that mind is known as intellect. Mind structurally is one. That is how our masters talk about it. It is structurally one, but functionally, it has four aspects. Layer number one is the mind, layer number two is the intellect, layer number three is the realization. So I did not talk about the layer number four, that we will talk. So now see that knowledge that we receive in the mind or the intellect fulfills the basic necessities, needs as controlled by the existence in all the living species. Did I make a right sentence? If I don't make it, so better you understand. So knowledge that is operated by the existence in other living beings because they do not have a freedom. Their intellect is not free, so they don't have a free will. We have a free will. Based on that, the master says that very knowledge is happiness. How is that? That knowledge is consciousness, and that consciousness is the permanent state of happiness. You go to the medical school, you have a graduate degree, there is a graduate ceremony. What your mind says, oh, there is a master's degree. Then there is, MS and MD. Go further. There is no end to it. The satisfaction in the knowledge that we receive from the world outside is never there in our head. Whether you go into the stream of IT, medical science, any stream of the knowledge, but the moment you know that I am the real self, that knowledge is not short-lived. Once I recognize and realize that I am the real self, that knowledge becomes the permanent happiness. That is why we say this real self is absolute existence, consciousness, and bliss. Did you understand that part? Happiness by knowledge in the material world is short-lived. It does not give me an ultimate satisfaction. You have done a graduate in medical science and you meet the person who has done the master's. But this knowledge of the real self we get, it results into permanent happiness. You have done same example, you have done a graduate, and now the mind says, we do the graduate ceremony, we are happy, but the next time we say, no, I have to do more. So, what is the difference between the knowledge in the material science, in the world outside, and in the self discovery? In the material world, it is an extension of knowledge. And in the self discovery, in the Eastern wisdom, it is an expansion of knowledge. If you if we are aware of the expansion of the knowledge and the extension of the knowledge, that ignorance will disappear here and now. So, because it is an expansion of knowledge, that permanent state of happiness always remains. It gives us an everlasting satisfaction. And the mind that recognizes comfortably unhappy, uncomfortably happy disappears. The problem is the short lived happiness. Problem is the knowledge in the Eastern wisdom is nothing but the expansion of happiness. And that expansion of happiness is what is live in a moment. It gives us everlasting happiness the moment we realize I am the real self, and that real self is consciousness. The moment we have that understanding that I want to expand this knowledge, you become the highest level of a seeker. Why I touched upon this topic in the summarizing the first 17 verses. You are the highest level of a seeker, and when we are the highest level of a seeker, we only need to understand, we only need to receive the knowledge from the teacher to realize the highest state. We need not to do the practice. See that. So if we are not the highest level of a seeker, we have to follow, we have to follow the journey of certain practices of discernment and dispassion. We should be very clear about the why we do the discernment. What is real, what is false, and what is real. And I have already discussed about what is false. It is constantly changing. It is dependent. What is false? The mirror is water. What is false? The blueness of the sky. What is false is the earth looks stationary. It is my experience, but it is not. Same thing. I am the body is false. I am the breath is false. I am the mind is false. I am Sachidanand. That is true. So what we are given, that is different with a different configuration. We all are the same. Computer is the same. All living species are the same. We have a different configuration. The ego says, look at this mosquito. But fact is that we all are same. Only the configuration is different. We don't recognize it, we don't realize it, and then we build our ego, then we are a non-seeker, then it doesn't work. So one master symbolically explains That gift by the existence to all the human beings is rare, is unique. Out of the 8.4 million species, rare is the human frame where that intellect is sitting, which has a free will, which has a free intellect, which can receive the knowledge, retain the knowledge, realize it. And every day we wake up in the morning, I have a lot of stress, I have a lot of problem with my honey, I have a lot of problem in the job. We don't recognize that rarest of the rare gift that we have. I'm coming to that symbol. So that master says the existence has created the human being, likened the existence. That existence which has two important factors. One is the knowledge. According to the knowledge, it has created millions of species. We are also given the intellect which can receive and retain that knowledge, realize that. And what is that knowledge of the real self? So we are focused more on the knowledge of the real self. We are not focused on the knowledge of the material world because we remain unsatisfied. So what is the symbol? Ashok might have read. Ashok is a wise guy. So Eastern wisdom says even the god and goddesses cannot realize the real self because they do not have a human frame. It is only in this human frame this mind can work with a free will and can receive and realize that knowledge. And we are wasting our time. We always want to live, what I said, comfortably unhappy and uncomfortably happy. Lot of problems. What should I do? When women told me I don't have enough to sustain, that's why I'm living with the honey. Otherwise, I hear a lot of. So symbolically, it says God and goddesses have an astral body. They do not have the human frame. They have a subtle body. That's why they live in heaven. It's a symbolic. So because they have the astral body, they cannot realize the real self. Only in the human frame we can realize the real self. Are you clear? From the point of view of configuration done by the existence of all the living species, there are 8.4 living species according to Eastern wisdom. Only one living being, that is the human frame, can realize the real self. And we are missing that opportunity. And if we are a seeker, then we have only to listen to the teacher, contemplate and reflect, and ultimately we realize the highest state of mindfulness. So, why the three steps are given? First is I do not know, let me know it. So, I do not understand, let me understand it. I do not experience, but why I do not understand? Because there are a lot of doubts. So, you are constantly contemplating and reflecting in your day to day living. The moment you become comfortably unhappy and uncomfortably happy, you want to discover why it is happening. So all the doubts are gone. But after the doubts are gone from our head, certain wrong notions keep haunting the mind. It veils the real self, and that veil is nothing but the ignorance. And that is why Eastern wisdom says asato ma satagame, tamaso ma jyotirgame, moving from the false to the real, moving from ignorance to the wisdom is the way. With that background, not understanding, this master, his name is Vidyaranya. I told you that he has 15 chapters in his book. He lived around 800, 1200 years ago. 5 chapters, he focused on what is existence. Next 5 chapters, he focused on what exactly is consciousness. And the third group of 5 chapters, he focused on what exactly is the permanent happiness. He says, no, you need to understand it. The more deeper, subtler understanding you have, what happens? You start living into that state of consciousness. That means the living in the state, living from a moment or living in the mindfulness, highest state of mindfulness. So the first metaphor I'm repeating, there is a canvas, it is pure consciousness. Second layer, first layer of the superimposition is the causal body. Second layer of the superimposition is the subtle bodies. That subtle body is the mind. Mind with the sense organ plus the intellect and the ego. That creates the fourth layer of the world. So I see you, I talk to you, I have certain feeling and attitude and a thought about you. It is all coming from the mind. It has nothing to do with the real self. It has nothing to do with the higher consciousness. That is why we have a phrase, mindfulness transcends the mind. Are you getting it? Why we have a phrase? We normally say it transcends the mind, so we take it casually. No. We have to reflect on this. Why the master says any meditation or mindfulness transcends the mind. Why? Because the mind creates the world of comfortably, unhappy, uncomfortably, happiness, in our daily life, that needs to be understood and negated. I covered last week what do you mean by negation. That needs to be negated. If you do not negate it, means if you do not transcend the mind, you cannot enter into that state of mindfulness. I'm going slowly now. That's why I laid that foundation. First time the teacher says you are the real self. What kind of a knowledge that you receive? You receive the indirect knowledge. We want a direct knowledge to succeed in mindfulness. Again, I'm repeating. When I say you are the real self, you heard it, you believed it, but still it is an indirect knowledge. When the knowledge of the real self becomes direct, that is meditation, that is mindfulness. Did you get it? The difference between direct and indirect knowledge. The real self is not an indirect knowledge. That is why it is taking time. That is why we have to listen and learn. Think, just be very clear. It's in a very simple way. We are going a little deeper. Direct and indirect knowledge. Oh, it's raining outside. So it is an indirect knowledge. I heard the sound of the raindrops. It is an indirect knowledge. Do you see that? We live in the world through our mind with a direct and indirect knowledge all the time. That is why the master lays a stress that you have to listen and learn. You have to contemplate and reflect. And then you have to live with that knowledge, even in the thought form during the day, to live in the state of mindfulness. Again, I'm making it clear why we do not get the direct knowledge of the state of mindfulness or the real self only in one session, because there is some doubt. The doubt pops up in the mind. Oh, you told me that I'm the real self. Okay, I take it for granted. No, that will not work. It is indirect knowledge. I have to work on it. In order to work, I have to contemplate and reflect. So when I contemplate and reflect, that indirect knowledge starts becoming direct. Not by practice, just by understanding again and again, contemplating and thinking about it. And that is why last time we said, first understand what is real and the false, and then do the discernment. What do you do? What kind of a discernment? You negate what is false. Negation does not mean that you reject, you crush, you destroy. The mind, that awareness, that knowledge inside negates the mirror as water, negates that earth is stationary. Do you recognize? Negates the label of a husband and a wife. You go deeper. That gives you the direct knowledge. Are you getting it? Very subtler aspects now it starts from the next week's session. So that is why I'm laying some detailed understanding. Real self is realized directly. If it is indirect, it doesn't work. Indirect means I said you something, you believed blindly, you did not realize it. That is what's happening in all the religions. It creates a cult and a dogma and a belief. Master says no dogma, no cult, no belief. You have to realize the real self directly. So, what are those challenges that we face? We are going to understand in our next week's session. Let us see, close your eyes. What we discussed, we will translate that into realization through contemplation and reflection. So get rid of that idea that we are doing the practice. Eyes are closed, the body is comfortable, and you are settled comfortably, happy, not unhappy. If you are settled comfortably, happy, it's good, you are aware, then what happens? You experience the comfort directly. Lesson message is that if we do not receive, if we do not realize the real self here and now directly, there is no point in the entire knowledge of the Eastern wisdom. So the comfort is your experience. Did you do anything for the sake of the experience of the comfort? No. But the mind says, you see the doubt? Mind says, I have closed my eyes. So can I not be in the comfort state with eyes open? Yes, that is also possible. Remember the negation part of it. I told you again, I negate the mirage water. Do I do anything? No, it is done through the knowledge. Where the knowledge lives, it is deep inside the mind. So there I come to a direct knowledge that sand and the sun creates that mirage effect. Let us follow the same. You're looking at the shoulder joint. You're aware of the shoulder joint. You have a direct experience of sensation, comfort, and steadiness. You have a direct knowledge or indirect? Sense organ picks up the respective objects of comfort and sense of emptiness. So the mind receives the indirect knowledge from the sense organs. Look at it. But if it confronts with the past experiences, there are doubts. That is why we have a lot of thoughts running in the mind. You are just aware, you're just looking, you're witnessing. So, sensation, comfort, and steadiness experienced in the mind, you want to go deeper. You look inside, you find the sense of emptiness in the space. And we understood that space is awareness and awareness is the space. When we look inside, we are aware of inside, there is only one. When we look outside, there are many. It is an awareness. It is a direct perception. You cannot say that I'm sitting within you or you are sitting within me. Is there any doubt? There is no doubt. There is no wrong notion. Yeah, some people have a wrong notion. You are my soulmate. Your soul is sitting in me. That is all imagination and delusion. The entire body. We need not to practice, we need to be aware objects of in the world. We pick up the knowledge of five different kinds of objects in the material world through the five sense organs. Eyes picks up the form, nose picks up the smell. There are millions of the smell. So the touch picks up the sensation of touch from the different material. Ears picks up the sound. Tongue picks up the taste. And choose and just maintain your awareness. What you get, the direct and or the indirect knowledge. To receive a knowledge, we need a knower and also an object. So every sense organs become a knower. When you say I see you means eyes are the knower, you are an object, and the knowledge takes place in between. For the time being, we understand that knower, which never changes, is the real self. Oh, senses are the knowers. So are the senses real self? Eyes is one knower, smell is nose is another knower that knows the smell. First pair. We're not doing any practice. We're not trying to control any object, any thought, any feeling, any sensation. We are just aware. But all the sense organ changes. So the objects changes. Again, I'm repeating in order to confirm what I'm speaking. You don't do anything in the mirage. You don't destroy the mirage water because it doesn't exist. So the objects of the sense organs cannot know any sense organ. I see the wall. Wall cannot know my eyes. Why? Why you said this? Because I'm conscious, hence I'm consciousness. Wall is not conscious. Or car, I see the car. Or I feel the heat. Just we need an awareness. But those who are non seekers, they will take it intellectually and it will not work. Let us see direct with the direct knowledge or indirect. So when I say go deeper, you are aware of the mind that is aware of all the five sense organs. No sense organ is aware of the mind. Eyes do not know the mind, ears do not know the mind, the tongue does not know the mind. Just an awareness, my friends. In that awareness, there is a discernment, there is a negation, there is an understanding what is real and unreal that we have understood many a times. False is constantly changing, it is dependent, it appears to exist but does not exist, like water appears to exist in the mirage but does not exist. What do you mean? If the senses are changing, they appear to exist. So the second pair is the sense organ and the mind. Mind is the knower of all the sense organs. Eyes cannot see the mind. Skin cannot touch the mind. Mind is the knower. Sense organs are the objects and the known. So our senses works two ways. Sometimes it becomes the knower and then it becomes the object. If you have a direct perception and awareness, when anything that becomes the knower in the known cannot give me the direct knowledge of the real self. That understanding is the negation of sense organ. First sphere, the objects of the world, the people, the places, the situation, and the condition. Then all these sense organ becomes the knower, observer. You can say knower, observer, witness. Same sense organ becomes the known and the objects for the mind because mind is the knower. Second pair. Senses are the object and the mind is the knower. Any object, when you give a label to anything that is an object, that is inert, that is matter. Why the eye cannot see the mind? Because eye is a matter. It is inert. I am conscious. Just we need an awareness. Thoughts in the mind keeps on changing. The mind becomes upset. There are mood swings. So if the mind is the real knower, it should not change, but it is changing. I have a lane number 1 that may be active, the lane number 2 may be active, lane number 3 you experience. Oh, so the mind is changing. Mind is changing, there is a mood swing, mind becomes upset, mind becomes happy, mind has a planning, has a desire, has the thoughts. But who knows this? That is the witness consciousness, that is the real knower. Doubt is there? Let me clear the doubt. The knower and the known has to be separate. When I say you that I know you, I am separate from you. I see you, so I know you. That is why the first pair of the knower and the known, sense organ and the objects of the world. Very good. Yes. Clear. Doubt is clear. Then the mind and the sense organ, mind is the knower, the sense organs are the objects. So anything known is an object, and that object is matter. That object is inert. That object is matter and inert. It cannot know itself. It cannot know others. So we have seen the sense organ plays a role of a knower, number one, if you brand it. And then you give a label to the mind, the knower, number two. But the mind is also changing. Are you aware who changes? Who notices this change? Who is aware of this change? That is real self. That is the real knower. Knower number three. In the moment we realize this, the mind, we also realize the mind is the matter. It is the direct knowledge. You heard it, that we are the real self. Here we realize definitely we are. Our master says that once we know this knower number three, or what we say the witness consciousness, there is nothing beyond it. One point, when we recognize the knower number three who knows the mind is an object, this is the meaning of transcending the mind. We start imagination, oh, transcending the mind, that I should not have any thought, or the mind is totally destroyed. If it is destroyed, we are gone. This is what this master is talking about. Compare it with a metaphor. Material world perceived by the sense organs. And the mind is the knower of the senses and knower of the world also. So the world outside, the painting, and the mind, the subtle body. And then we directly moved from the mind. The entire world lives in the mind. Behind and beyond the mind, there is a knower. That knower is the pure consciousness, pure witness. We are just aware, we are moving. Is it an expansion of the mind or extension? It is an expansion of knowledge. Where it is an expansion of knowledge, in that awareness we have a knowledge of the knower. Number three, we have a knowledge of the mind adopts the role of a known object and also the knower. Number two, recognition of the sense organs as a knower and the known, and the world ultimately are nothing but the objective world. It is an expansion. Going back to the same metaphor of a canvas, what happened? That knower, number three, is nothing but the canvas. I am that pure consciousness, and everything else is superimposed. I'm in stress superimposition. I got pleasure in eating pasta, that is superimposition. I have a big house, superimposition. I don't have a house, superimposition. I have a lot of pain, superimposition. In this space, the water is superimposed in a desert called the mirage water. Steadiness on the earth is superimposed by the mind. Otherwise, the earth is not stationary. Do you see it clearly? That very seeing is mindfulness. Buddha uses the word priksha, vipassana. That simply means seeing. Seeing means awareness. Awareness is knowledge. So, in meditation or mindfulness, at a very subtler level, we want to know who knows the mind. Who knows the mind? Real self, pure consciousness. Normally, we teach about focus on the breath, breath mindfulness. It doesn't work. It gives you relaxation. It's okay. But when we talk of mindfulness or meditation, no, it is not, according to the teachings of these masters. You know directly who knows the mind, the sense organ, and the world outside. Canvas. I'm comparing the metaphor. So, what the canvas did when you had the painting on a canvas, the canvas did nothing. Everything appeared on the canvas. Everything appears on that knower number three of the pure consciousness. Everything in the world appeared or appears daily at every moment. I'm repeating. Who knows the mind? So if I know the mind, which is separate, I also know the sense organ. I also know the world outside. They all are superimposed on the canvas, on the real self. Superimposed means they did not mix up. They remain separate. But we, due to ignorance, we feel they are one. we identify, we get attached. So emotional dependence and anxiety and duality and a conflict, everything enters. Shanti, Shanti, Shanti. Shanti, Shanti, Shanti. Shanti, Shanti, Shanti. You know the note number three, with eyes open or closed, it doesn't make any difference. With that understanding, bring your mind to the right hand, your mind to the left hand. Lift your both the palms, place it on your eyes. Open the eyes inside the palms. Know your experiences. Bring the hands down. And we will share our experiences. So, how are you, Stephen?
I'm good, very good. Today was a lot of contemplation, reflection, listening to what you were talking about. I shared a little bit of what I was thinking this week with Sam yesterday, and it kind of became apparent to me. And I'll talk to it right now. Earlier in the week, I had a leaky faucet that I decided to fix myself. Long story short, I fixed it. And my wife says to me, "Wow, you could do it." And I was like, "It's not a big deal. There's A, YouTube, and B, when you have the right tools, you could do anything." So I dismissed it. Then on Wednesday, Sam talked about utilizing the hammering of the Om in his moments of awareness that he needs to use it. And on Thursday, Terry said that she started going back and listening to the old lessons, and that's become very helpful to her. So then I started to realize in the last 24 hours that the Eastern wisdom is basically giving us the instruction. It's giving us utilizing the metaphors, analogies, the knowledge, the intelligence, but most importantly, it's actually providing us a toolbox.
Yeah.
And the different lessons that we've learned in over the last 3 years of doing this, the negations of what is appears true but is false, desire, ego, lane 1, 2, 3. All of these are just tools, and with the right tools, you could do anything. And so we utilize the principles of Eastern wisdom to become aware of our goal is to recognize and reach truth, happiness, peace, and wisdom. So we need to be aware of what is preventing that, which there's one obstacle, the mind. And if we pull out the right tool, and whether we do the step back, however we have to look at it, and we pull out the right tool, we overcome that mind, and therefore it just leaves us with pure consciousness. So
Yes, wonderful. Now the real thing is going to come from the next week. We will have another metaphor where we directly recognize and realize this is the real self. But in order to realize that, we should be aware of these tools, the power of negation, the power of discernment, and the other tools that we did in the last 3 years that prepares us to become a seeker. And once we are a seeker and constantly working in our daily living, it has nothing to do that you have to sit for an hour. You hear the lesson and then you see that how that lesson is going to be applied 24 by 7. One example, one thought comes to my mind that I am worthy of suffering. Mind, it is the mind says, I am worthy of suffering. I have a pain. The next moment I am aware. I use the tool. So I see that suffering as a mirror, as water. And then if I have a pain, then I take care of it. Simple. But I don't allow to aggravate that pain which causes the suffering, and it changes the mood, it changes my mind, I'm ready to react. All those aspects dissolve. You're right. Yes, you can use the word. I learned that toolbox. That's a good thing. How are you, David and Jerry?
Namaste. Good morning. Thank you. A real high level of energy from that practice for me, and it was I had a realization that it's 400 plus sessions like this have sort of rolled into almost this lesson being the summary of it all, and the expansion versus the extension of the mind, the direct versus the indirect knowledge, and just really living in awareness. And to Stephen's point, having the right tools, but also the knowledge to know which tools get used for which thing. Yeah. So thank you. It was wonderful.
Beautiful, beautiful. That is the way, a very wonderful narration. That all I have to live in awareness, but I should know how to live in that awareness. And that is why we have those tools. Whether you say power of discernment, the power of dispassion, and the most important thing, the expansion of the knowledge. And over and above it, if you have that expansion of the knowledge that you do not need to practice, you need to be aware. The moment you have an expansion of knowledge, I have seen even in my life that you are extremely fatigued, and the moment you have an expansion, that fatigue is gone. That is what you refer to as a very high level of energy without doing anything. Sam, this is a good point for you. How are you, Jerry?
Sir, I'm good. Thank you. It was just a great meditation. I love the recap and the direct versus the indirect is I definitely agree with that and feel that. And when Stephen said that he fixed a leaky faucet, I thought that was a metaphor.
Yeah. Oh, yes, I got it.
And so I thought that in my mind right away went, oh, perfect. No more leaky faucet in the mind.
Yes, that is what I got it. Yes. That is wonderful. The moment you said this, and instantly I got it. But when Stephen was explaining, I did not have that awareness. So this is how it works. Think during the day the mind is leaking, means you have anxiety, duality, conflict, and all kinds of negative aspect in your life. The mind is leaking. Wonderful. That's wonderful. And how are you, Brandy?
Good morning. I'm fine. Thank you. I appreciate what everyone said so far because I came out of my meditation not really knowing what to share. I was in a really deep place and my mind was still running and I was aware of that. And so I think, to Jerry's point, the thing about the leaky faucet being metaphorical or actual helps me understand kind of what was happening because I didn't want to come out of the meditation and, deal with like the constant thoughts, but then I don't really have to. I mean, it's not with the application of the tools.
You see, the mind that still has lot of crazy thoughts. So someone who knows that your mind is leaking. So the one who knows it is me, not the mind that is leaking. So when we live into that awareness, it's a direct knowledge. Wonderful, beautiful way of putting. And the best part is that you do not want it to come out. How are you, Sam?
Good. Had a little bit of fluttering thoughts, but mainly focused on your voice, and it was just totally, completely absorbed.
Fully absorbed. Beautiful, beautiful. Wonderful, Sam. And how are you, Anastasia?
Thank you. I'm good. It was very deep meditation, and today I've got this thought during meditation that when I close my eyes, it seems now like the word disappears at all because I don't feel my body. I can only hear your voice and be in the middle of nothing. And I was thinking during meditation, it just came up that we are so attached to this world outside, but we're not attached to our real nature. We neglect this fact of happiness, internal happiness inside of us, but we should do another side, neglect the world and be attached to this real nature.
I would say yes. That's a wonderful narration again. I should be attached to the real self. I should not be attached to the world. So when we talk of attachment and detachment, we can use the attachment in this way. Let me attach to the knower number 3. Knower number 3. We are editing a book, I and Brandy, so where I'm picking up this concept and how to apply that. And another part, you said that your mind jumped from the knower number 1. You remember? Knower number 2, it jumped away from that. And it was settled in the knower number 3. Beautiful. Beautiful, wonderful. How are you, Ashok? Oh, we have two more. Yes.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you, sir.
It was very peaceful and relaxing. And during the week and during the day, all the time, mind was contemplating and reflecting on it's a wave which we are uh, looking at. I mean, seeing, but we are all the water. Uh, it is all pervading. Real self is all pervading, and we are all the waves only which are I mean
Yeah.
objects are the waves only, but
Yeah.
inside that's the pure water. We are the, I mean, real self is all pervading. So when we are
Yeah.
meeting someone, going somewhere, even in the house, in the family, all are real self, and all are the water, all are the looking waves, but they are not the waves. They are not the, I mean,
They are
they are
not
the
the
real
same
self.
water. Yes, yes. I'm
That is
adding words into your mouth. I know, I know. We all got that metaphor. We all got that metaphor. So we what happened? The best part of this narration is that our perception towards the world and thought and speech and events and relations have changed completely.
yes, sir.
So mindfulness is nothing but now I see the reality. Mindfulness or meditation is to see the reality anywhere, everywhere, in all locations, at all time, using the toolbox
Gee,
that we have. Beautiful.
gee.
A couple of months, maybe 6, 7 months, you said, I had a lot of problem what to do, my professional, social life. Now everything is gone. Social life is the same. Outer situation is the same. Honey is still the same, Ashok, I believe so.
Yes, she is.
But our perception has changed. Now we know what is real. His honey is also my student. So how are you, Terry? Where are you?
I just the meditation I just kept I didn't really, it seemed really quick and I didn't want to come out because I was trying to I guess I was trying to use the tools to keep myself
Yeah.
Close as possible to the real, what did you call it? The direct,
Yeah.
and I would feel myself sort of floating away from it. I would come back and I wanted to just keep there. But then it was over. So
Do you realize, Terry, and all of us should realize, I started the talk that all the living species have the body in the breath with a different configuration. What difference it makes is my intellect to put the knowledge into it. You have a lot of challenges with your body, but still, if I use my intellect in the same human frame, transformation takes place. I don't want to use the word miracle or magic, but something transformative takes place. Very good. So how are you, Kate?
Namaste. Beautiful lesson. We're running over. Thank you.
Running over. Thank you. So think of this, and that is the summary of these 17 verses. So we will use another metaphor which has not been used by any other master. you have to be with it. We are going for a direct knowledge of the real self. For that is all for today. Thank you very much.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Namaste, everyone.
Namaskar.
Namaste.
Namaste.